one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. My name is TJ. Every day on this channel, we teach you how to make money with digital assets and Bitcoin. And that song always gets me hyped up. I love that song. There is no second best. Shout out to everybody in the Disco fam. I hope you guys had an incredible weekend. We're all feeling very bullish. Everybody's very excited here in the office, seeing prices moving up. We've got Federal Reserve Jerome Powell hosting a surprise crypto summit tomorrow, where he's pulling in heads of the digital asset industry. The focus is going to be cryptocurrency, digital payments, tokenization. So all of our favorite things that are bullish for this market. Feeling re-inspired. I had a lot of conversations this weekend, several different people, whether it was a phone call or I was out at a party and crypto came up. And it's interesting. Used to be when I would be at a party and crypto would come up, it was a lot of people like, that stuff's a scam, right? Like, you believe in that? Now it was like there were several people there that have been in for a while, and they're like, is the 4-year cycle dead, or you think it's going to still be bullish, or is the 4-year cycle intact? So I know that was the conversation. We left things off here on Friday. It's my favorite thing to do. Let us know in the chat how your weekend is. If you're feeling bullish or bearish right now, I love seeing what the Disco fam is feeling. But my resolve has been strengthened. I 100% am feeling confident that the bull market is not over. 4-year cycle will not look like it has in the past, and we are heading back into the bullish zone. Leverage is flushed and clear. We've got a lot of really good stuff to cover. We're going to get into the charts, but I cannot not introduce my co-host today. The one and only Druth is here with us today. How was your weekend? How are you feeling?
I am invigorated. The son won his soccer game.
All right.
Cleared up the property from all these giant Joro spiders. Found an incredible band to sing for out here in Georgia. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic. Church was incredible. Just
feeling bullish or bearish?
I'm bullish. Last night I was in the Discord and we nailed a great long entry point. And it kept me up for a little bit too long. So I ended up, cutting it short at about 1:30 in the morning. Right. But I've decided not to trade when Trump is awake. For the time being, I'm trying to trade only when Trump is asleep. I don't know how it's going to really work. He seems to not sleep that much. But I'm absolutely loving it. And excited for the show. Excited for this week, especially with all the news of Chainlink and the Federal Reserve.
Yeah,
very bullish.
Let's check some prices. I do see the chat. DZ is the man, and he'll be back. He's on his honeymoon, so everybody wish him the best. If you guys didn't know where he was, and I see this comment here, Bass Brothers or Bass Brothers. I was about to say, no way, TJ with no co-host. Believe it or not, I did used to host Blockchain Basement all by myself, so I am capable of running a show on my own.
I remember the day I was clicking the buttons and I was like staying all silent, just like pressing everything for it. Those are the OG days, man.
Back in the day, man. So obviously getting some bullish momentum here this morning. Bitcoin coming in 11,200, Ethereum back above 4,000. Nice to see that. Altcoin index still at 27, fear and greed still at 30. So this is still an opportunity zone. If you guys didn't know, the key levels were in that 108 to 110 range. Those were ones we were watching. So it seems to be holding. We're going to be looking at some other stuff there. Floki, the big winner today with the Elon Musk tweet. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Synthetics getting a lot of momentum around their trading competition and kind of incorporating perps and their whole product suite actually looking pretty strong with everything, the move towards tokenization. Zcash has been the darling recently. Chainlink, obviously, big news. So we're going to cover this whole article, but in the meeting that's happening tomorrow, it was kind of came out of nowhere. Jerome Powell's hosting a summit on digital assets, and Chainlink, Sergey Nazarov, first person speaking. And Sergey is always right at the center of all of these things when it comes to the government, when it comes to politics. So I think this is another very bullish indicator for Chainlink. We've got some revenue things for Chainlink that are going to be interesting to look at. So Chainlink still one of my biggest, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink still my 3 largest holdings. I still have some altcoins, but top losers real quick I wanted to hit is Athena still getting beat up a little bit. Not bad on the week, but down on the day. Plasma and Aster mostly getting crushed. Tau holding strong. But I like looking at the weeklies too. So yeah, see Athena not too bad on the week. Packs, then you get into some of these other gold-based things. So I still think this is an accumulation zone. Let's just look at the top 200 just to see. Bio Protocol, another one sneaking up in here. Starknet, then some meme coins and such. So worth mentioning that, again, the fear and greed index, and I do believe this is still a good time to accumulate. I bought some last Friday, added from fiat, another Bitcoin. I intend to make a large purchase this week. So I'm still accumulating heavily. I do feel like this is a good point to be in. Let's see, multi-sig dummy. I don't feel dumb anymore. Way to go, multi-sig dummy. You're never dumb. you're always fun lore. My back in the day when I was a mere child and I used AOL, and let me know what your AOL instant messenger screen name was. I used to use one that was called like Crash Dummy and some numbers and stuff. So I always think of that when I see multi-sig dummy.
I was so young when that came out. I think I was on there and I shouldn't have been. I can't remember what my name was. Yeah, it's nice to see a 12% pump on Chainlink too. Jeez Louise. It's is the 4-year cycle over? Is it extended into now a 4.5, 5-year cycle? That is the $1 trillion question. I feel like.
And I'm going with it's, again, it's not over till it's over. So the people that are still tracking it along, you still have to see something different happen in the 2026. But I do believe it is going to be more of the liquidity cycle, the money printing cycle. And that's clear that that's going to be large for 2026. We're going to talk about, we're going to get more rate cuts. I think it's the 26th that we're going to be getting the rate cut.
I'll double check that in the background here, but it's coming right up.
Sometime 29th, I think it's next week, next Wednesday, we'll be seeing another rate cut. And we're going to continue to see that, and we're going to continue to see a lot of money printing. So, but I'll throw it to you. Let's look at some of the articles and some of the stuff we have pulled up here, and let's get in it. What do you have on your radar?
Well, first of all, the huge question in the immediate term is, are we looking at a dead cat bounce for Bitcoin right now? We just hit $126,000 and flushed all the way down to $101,000 in what felt like a blink of an eye. Trump tweet after Trump tweet, crash out after crash out, kept the market on edge. And here is a great look at generally what market participants are thinking. Dead cat bounce to $118,000 is in question. 5 things to know about Bitcoin this week. So Bitcoin started a new week fighting form as bulls staged a rebound past $111,000. The S&P 500 also opened. If you're not in the Discord, the trading group, me and Kelly did a market open trading group review. The S&P opened extremely hot. We are looking very, very hot. A lot of people are looking for the markets to roll over. Max Payne actually might be continued up only action here. Bitcoin flipped volatile into Sunday's weekly close, capping the week at $108,600 before briefly retracing. Data from Cointelegraph Market Pro and TradingView showed buyer strength resurfacing into the week's first Asia trading session, allowing for a jump of $111,000. Now, this included last night's data coming out about the Bank of Japan and Asian markets showing pretty strong GDP data outlook. Now, a dedicated post from ex-trader Crip Nuevo suggested that a short squeeze may characterize the rest of October. Now we can see a big cluster of short liquidations between $116,000 and $117,000. I find this very intriguing because $116,500 is a major block of interest for me that I think is going to be very turbulent. And I do believe that Bitcoin is now angling to get there. My last point of interest was $107,500. I was able to enter the trade late last night, ended up making 78% on that trade. These other ones only got 2.8%, 0.8%. I've been fishing around looking for that bottom and got in late last night, just seeing this action come in, and the markets really are starting to move pretty hotly. And I do want to actually go look at where liquidation levels currently sit on Binance. Very split for the moment being, but if we look at the larger time frames, this is really what I want to look at here. It is up. It is up $113,900. You will see $100 million block there and a $260 million block of liquidations of bears and major accounts whales that are moving into big shorts. This is an interesting move from Bitcoin OG, a 1011 short, back depositing $30 million worth of Circle stablecoin into Hyperliquid and opened a 10x short worth 700 Bitcoin, $75 million. Now, late last night, TJ, I just had this gut feeling the bears were starting to get a little bit too cocky. And seeing those big chunks of cash flowing in, $70 million short, $60 million short, as we were at essentially in my opinion, a range low, painted the picture for, a new chance for Binance to really take some money out of major whales' hands. And really, this general chart does not look too bad. As we're going through the show today, I'm actually also watching a key level that me and Kelly were talking about here. Generally, just watching for this washout in the midterm back down to about 109.5 and bouncing off the top end of this internal structure here. And again, that 300 moving average treated me delicious this weekend, especially Sunday here.
Yeah, that was the main one we were watching. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks. It does, as long as we can hold above that, we do remain structurally bullish. Again, I'm a lot more on the macro side while we're looking at charts. And I did see your chat of like, how do we know the Fed's doing that meeting? It's from their own website, so we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But
it's kind of unbelievable. I can understand why people are like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. But so you're looking at those short-term levels. This is one that I like on the long-term level of like, this is the weekly Bitcoin dollar on Kraken. And we're still like, a lot of people were thinking, if we fell below this, we couldn't recover, but we actually did right at the last minute recover this on the weekly time frame, looking very strong. We're at the bottom edge of this. And then again, you get to the top side of these, even the middle is in that 150 range. You get higher up and you could be getting to that $200,000 Bitcoin, which as crazy as this might sound right now, I do not believe is out of the cards for this year to see a $200,000 Bitcoin this year. Obviously that's exceptionally bullish. It could be, or obviously 2026, even if we get to 140 this year, I'd be happy, but I really do believe some things have been slowed down by this government shutdown. We were supposed to be having a ton of ETF approvals. I think it would have been next week was when all those deadlines were. I did confirm the government shutdown will delay those, but I believe what this digital this summit that they're having with Jerome Powell, the Fed, and a lot of these heads of regulation in crypto is setting the stage for, again, tokenization of the entire stock market. If you look at who's there, it's Chainlink, it's Paxos, it's basically stablecoin issuers, Mike Novogratz from AI16Z. There's going to be a lot of heavy hitters at this. I'm trying to put that up. All right, we're fighting each other. There you go. So there you go. There's the latest. Federal Reserve will co-host the payments. Chainlink, Paxos, Circle, Coinbase. Brian Armstrong is going to be there. I think is that the schedule right there. Can you make that larger?
Yes. So this is the schedule. So October 21st, Tuesday this week. You're gonna have breakfast
tomorrow. Yeah.
Pancakes, probably. Opening remarks from Christopher Waller, a Fed governor. And then they start diving into it. Sergey is
first speaker. Like, let's get this guy out there first while everybody's locked in and paying attention before they get sleepy in the afternoon. So
I think there's something to the fact that Sergey was the only one that was able/willing to speak to Trump at that first original crypto roundtable in the White House. Remember that? That's kind of like the watershed moment where like, holy cow, crypto is here to stay. They're allowing Sergey. And even, I do wonder where XRP/Ripple technology is going to land in this. They got to mention Ripple at some point. At the very minimum, they have to mention Ripple. Like, I understand, like, I'm annoyed with the size of market cap and the upside outlook for XRP, but there is no denying that the Fed now framework does utilize Ripple technology through Volante for the next iteration of bank-to-bank payments. So, maybe they run with that narrative. Kind of weird to not see, Brad Garlinghouse not listed on this.
Right.
That's kind of odd to me.
There's two things. This is happening tomorrow Tuesday. And then right after that, basically the same group of people is going to meet with a bunch of senators in I get basically a digital asset roundtable. And again,
Mhm.
I think it's to work on the market structure bill, help push that across the line. I do believe Ripple will have representation. They have very strong lobbying efforts. They've been working this angle for a very, very, very long time. So I think again, I went back to full. I was a little hesitant, and I think I mentioned this when we were down below 80K. Whenever my resolve starts, when I start feeling close to capitulating a little bit, or when I start to question my resolve, it's almost always a pico bottom. And I've learned to sit with that feeling a little bit and realize, you know what, if I'm having these thoughts, I guarantee almost everybody else is, and this is probably a pile in moment, definitely not a sell them and walk away moment. And so that's what
Mhm.
I almost always choose to do. Whether it was the bottom of the COVID crash in March 12th, 2020, I bought some. Whether it was back not that long ago when we were under 80K at 78, 76, selling cars, selling stuff. I closed on a house last Friday. That money went straight into Bitcoin. So and sometimes I see some of those moments as somewhat serendipitous, where it's like, obviously I've been trying to close on this house for a long time, and it kept getting delayed for different reasons on the buyer's side. And it actually finally went through last Friday, and it was like, okay, you know what? We're straight into Bitcoin. So it's almost like every
What
time.
timing?
I
Your
know.
timing is unbelievable. Like,
Well, and that's what I love. It's not my timing, it's the universe, the higher power, whatever you want to call it,
right.
but it just works out. It just works out. And so I just try to take those moments as like, you know what, this was meant to be, time to get back into Bitcoin. So
Right. Right.
if I can add on these dips, 108 was looking juicy. It was the level that we looked at for a while. And like I said, if I can, I'm kind of crossing my fingers we don't go back up too fast. But when I
Right.
start looking at the news, the leverage is all flushed out. I feel like we're going to see some bullish action this week. Probably wouldn't surprise me if we, like you said, you think we might be coming back down to 110 or on that
I
short
could
term time frame.
see on the general chart, just the structure of it, from my trading perspective, it would make sense to come back down and tap this ascending trend line here. It does match up with a little bit of short-term liquidity wipes. And again, I'm going to wait till the middle of the night, probably the witching hour of 1 to 3 a.m. to put trades on. I do not want to be trading as I stand the potential of a Trump tweet sending us back down. But honestly, like, the structure looks very, very good. And everything going on right now, macroeconomically, culturally, gives me the same internal feelings that I had during, say the summer of love, or those, the 2020 lockdowns, the quantitative easing that went on there, the absolute max chaos that was going on, not to mention the no kings, protest that's going on right now. And I will say there is a king that will always be. It's Christ. Christ is your king. And it's always going to be that way.
I like that.
And I love going on to Facebook to remind people, right? Facebook is where I go to kind of see how freaking crazy people are getting right now. And I feel like people are getting distracted because TJ's mentioned about, how this market is structurally different than anything we've seen. It was something that really took me a long time of analyzing and back checking and comparing in terms of Bitcoin dominance, previous all-time high accomplishments, money flow movements. And I do indeed feel like we are there. BlackRock is now moving into the UK, releasing a Bitcoin ETP as well. So it looks like Larry Fink is expanding this product into the United Kingdom, launching this first Bitcoin exchange traded product for UK retail investors, opening up institutional grade crypto access for Britain's retail market amid volatile trading conditions. It's always I love how they have to highlight it. It's volatile, right?
Yeah.
It's volatile to leave your money into cash. I can
Yeah.
absolutely say that, right?
Volatile to the upside, like
Right.
they always leave that part out. It's like volatile, like it's going up so fast. It's like that's what we want.
Yeah, they're doing a great job selling it, right? But it's held through Coinbase. Again, this is more consolidation through NATO nations of crypto bags into Coinbase. While it seems, in my opinion, BRICS would be preferring the alternative, the bigger exchange, Binance, for a lot of those movements. But the UK crypto investor base is protected to approach, or projected rather, to approach 4 million over the next year. And this makes my heart happy seeing people in the UK find at least a way to financially express their speech, right? There's been a lot of constraints, a lot of controls put on the people within the United Kingdom in terms of cultural standards, what they can and cannot say, liking, viewing Facebook posts is even putting people into prison. But if I can see them with this escape route and finding access points to Bitcoin, though it is held through Coinbase, it does open up an opportunity of outpacing the hyperinflationary scenario that, in my opinion, we're going to walk into over the next 10 to 20 years. Thus, giving some good hope for the long term, just about having that long term vision to be able to make it there. So, this is going to be iShares Bitcoin ETP again. So, it's another iShares product, and it is opening up that realm for them. It's going to be using those security grade protocols. Just something interesting is that it goes offline cold storage by day's end. So they make the purchases and then they get it onto cold storage, but obviously held within Coinbase's institutional grade focus of that. Now, for me personally, as we've seen, I think Coinbase is actually still having issues. I think, what is this? Mickle 911. Yeah, Coinbase goes down every time it's the best time to get in or out of position. So, it's
anytime there's high traffic, Coinbase goes. That's a sign of a bull market, by the way. That used to be the bull market sign back in the day. Hey, Coinbase is down. I guess we're about to pump. So
it really is important to use cold storage device. I love Arculus, and I'm really happy that we have a cold storage sponsor that it was so easy to show my loved ones how to actually use cold storage. They looked at me like some kind of science wizard for the last few years. And I went out to Colorado and actually was able to show them how easy it was. So, do take advantage of it. If you don't have cold storage already, I do implore you to do so. We wouldn't have made it this far without it.
Yeah,
so.
I was shilling Arculus this weekend, and we'll just go ahead and run it real quick so you guys get a chance. You get a discount code. And
we just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone, and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.
Yeah, I love that. Every time I see that, I think of like, man, that shelf was so empty. It was before we had set up the old studio. Now we've moved again into this studio. So probably should reshoot that here. But they're actually doing construction today. It's been taking forever to get those permits, but they're actually knocking it out. So we will be in the newly refurbished studio here pretty soon. Pretty pumped about that. But you were just mentioning Coinbase and institutions, and I saw this over the weekend. 67% of institutions see bullish 6 months ahead for Bitcoin. And this is according to Coinbase, with crypto treasuries buying the dip. Bull market has room to run. And we will still see resilient liquidity conditions and strong macro backdrop and supportive regulatory dynamics. This part right here is what's got me bullish. And I was watching the chat go back and forth earlier saying anybody that thinks bull market's over is just a noob. But let me know, say in the chat, are you still bullish? Bull market over or bull market on? I want to know where you stand on it because it was very, very mixed Friday. I know I've run this poll a couple times on is the 4-year cycle dead, and it was almost like a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Today seems like people are feeling a little bit better, but bull market on or bull market over? See, we've got an over. See, not everybody's bullish. So over, on, it's on, still very bullish. Okay, on, still, all right.
I will be very clear about my price oracles decision of where we are right now. My wife is insanely good at this. So when we hit 126, she said it was a local top. I came on air like, here you go, guys. Local top, run if you're scared. She flipped bullish, right? She flipped bullish on Saturday, and now she's decided that was a washout. That was a psyop. And it's pretty clear, like in the digital asset treasury side, TJ, we see Michael Saylor, hinted on Sunday strategies, buying more Bitcoin, sharing a chart, $69 billion worth of Bitcoin holdings. Even with equity pullbacks, digital asset treasury, crypto reserves remain intact. And then the supply and demand picture is really starting to be called into question. It's hard to overstate the impact of digital asset treasury companies and what effect they'll have on the markets over the course of this year. So it is important to note this is an institutional investor survey. This isn't a retail survey. And this is almost like a clash of the minds where we have the old school 4-year cycle mentality. And we're waiting for that kind of, flow down the chart type process in a 4-year cycle manner. And I think we're kidding ourselves if we're thinking that we're going to out trade the likes of BlackRock and institutional grade investors like that. From our perspective, from my perspective, those institutions, Wall Street, are going to really kind of drive the general flow of this market. So that is what I see in general. Now, this stuff about Chainlink, it's made me. I am keeping my. I am so mad that Coinbase wouldn't let me. I had a good amount of dry powder to be able to deploy when Chainlink fell down to $8. Coinbase wouldn't let me buy it. It's the only spot I couldn't move any of the tether anywhere during the massive crash. So that was highly aggravating. It is what it is, though. Still printing tether on the trades.
You gotta do the on-chain trading, man. You know.
I know. They're starting to roll it out a lot too. I've been messing around Astro. There's also a new on-chain trading protocol. It looks like being developed from I believe Anatoly. Let me see here if I got this story here. It's kind of back in here. It is. So Solana founder Anatoly Yakovenko is building a new perp dex called Percolator. Some competition going on here. There's some competition going on. I wonder how aggressive Coinbase and Binance are going to be in trying to, if they were to try to maybe pull some winter meat moves on these exchanges, maybe some sleight of hand movements. TJ, I want your opinion on this. Decentralized exchanges, we've always been very, very excited about. And it kind of opens up that freedom aspect with leverage, right? Which is incredible. If you can give freedom leverage, great things can happen. Do you think that, Coinbase just released its own perpetual for the US, and Binance obviously is a behemoth with perpetuals, but it's been incubating Aster. They're even incubating another perp dex in congruence with another exchanges working together to roll out dexes.
I mean, we were probably talking about this on the basement too, on Apex which was Bybit's perp dex that rolled out in 2022, I think. I can't remember, a long time ago. So yeah, this is not a new trend. It's definitely the direction things are going. If you look at centralized versus decentralized, centralized can move fast, but they are very inefficient compared to decentralized. So the market towards efficiency, which is what we're seeing with decentralized and DeFi in general. I'm a huge believer in DeFi being the future of not just crypto, but really traditional finance. Traditional finance is going to move towards decentralized finance because of the efficiencies it provides, because the biggest finance companies in the world can make way more money, which is what they love to do, using DeFi. And it will happen. Banks will be offering it. That's why all these backroom meetings are happening. This market structure bill, this regulation that's coming in, it's all to allow DeFi to do what it can do. So extremely bullish on decentralized finance. Obviously, perpetuals is one of the pieces of that. Some of the core underlying things like Chainlink and Aave and Arrow and a lot of the other things we talk about, Morpho, lending and borrowing, trading, collateral, credit, all of that stuff. That is traditional finance wheelhouse, and it can be done in a much more efficient way, which when I'm saying efficient, I mean cheaper, less waste, less cost, they're more profit. Now, with that means more competition, and that's the main thing the banks were afraid of. They were trying to hold out that competition. Now that the free market's coming in, tech innovation has happened. There actually is a more efficient market, which means there will be competition, which means there's a lot of profit right now, and it will slowly get commoditized down to be less and less and less. I think that's going to take a decade or so, maybe a little bit longer before they get to the margins they're at right now. And there's going to be a lot of money to be made in the meantime. So that's why BlackRock is interested in tokenization. They're coming after owning, the stock market. The stock market's going to get more efficient. It's going to trade 24/7. Everything that crypto is the future of what traditional finance was. And that merging is happening now right in front of our eyes. I mean, speaking of efficiency, and you were talking about Chainlink earlier, I mean, this came up. This is just one thing I wanted to share. I see stuff like this and I get ridiculously bullish. 7 figures generated on Aave. Link is the most understood, underrated, slept on project in crypto. And I agree, even though we talk about it a lot, we are not sleeping on it on this channel. Many of our viewers are not sleeping on it, but this is the money that Aave has made by implementing Chainlink. So made Aave 2.2 million, and they made themselves 1.2 million in the process. And it was, very inexpensive. They're doing it at a very cheap rate. And that's basically by making the market more efficient. And that's what's out there to explain to the Federal Reserve. That's what he's going to be explaining to a whole bunch of lawmakers on Wednesday. And as these technologies start to get integrated into the regular markets, the amount of new money that's going to be generated and efficiencies that come back in. I mean, they talk about efficiencies with AI. Everybody's excited about what AI can do when it comes to efficiency, but it's nothing, in my opinion. Like it's still very, very, very early. A lot of it's still theoretical and conceptual. It will add efficiencies to the market, but what crypto and blockchain technology can do to add efficiencies to financial markets is revolutionary. I mean, that's why we get so excited. That's why we get so pumped up. I agree. Bitcoin specifically for the freedom and for store value and a lot of different things. Bitcoin is going to always be there and be the king. But I do believe decentralized finance is going to be relevant and is absolutely going to change the world. So that's why I focus my portfolio around those two things. I don't go chasing every pump, every new coin, if it's something that touches something I believe in, which, speaking of, this would be the one thing I like that's kind of outside that sector that you guys have heard me talk about a lot. We made a video about it this weekend. Nobody watched it, but you guys should go watch this video.
It's a new coin, It's
Origin Trail track. You guys know I'm bullish on this. I don't know what it's up 100% in the last month, which is about the time we started talking about it, like right back in here before the huge pump. So I hope some of you guys have gotten in on it, but what it does, again, it creates revenue. It provides value in a world of who knows what's real. You saw that that thing that came out of the White House of I guess it was real. Did Trump really say the F word about?
Dude, we covered it live. Okay, he did. He absolutely did say it live. Me and Kelly were shocked. Like that was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and with the world of AI, you never know what's real and what's not. Origin Trail will provide that. That's actually pretty cool technology. Now, I'm not saying we're not buy it.
Go back to that chart, okay? The basement and my wife really kind of twisted my arm to make sure we covered this at that red zone, okay?
Yeah, back here, yeah.
No one cared, right? And they're like, it is something to take into account. Like you have to take risks when things look horrible on disruptive technology to experience upside. And I think that's what, is something that I've learned a long time ago. But if it was obvious, everyone would do it and there would be no massive upside. And I do want to kind of touch on a comment here that really sparked the thoughts of something that I learned a while ago. So BlackRock is so on point. They have the vision. Larry Fink has been bullish on Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum at the minimum since 2021 in the background through closed doors, not publicly. Larry Fink was bullish on this technology while the company was coming out with their ESG initiatives, their investments in that regard, until 25 U.S. states here in the United States took aim at suing BlackRock for using their state funds against their own economies and making them fall into the ESG guidelines. When not all the smoke is cleared from that. There are still attacks on Bitcoin from its energy usage, and New York Democrats are proposing a companion bill that targets proof of work mining. It's Assembly Bill 9138 mirrors early Senate legislation imposing tiered excise taxes on energy-intensive crypto mining operations. So just for anyone that's in New York, or if you have any say in your local representatives, this is important information for you. And I know we have a lot of viewers up in New York. Lawmakers launched this legislative strike against crypto mining Friday, introducing a companion legislation, the Senate bill, that would force proof of work miners to pay high taxes based on their electricity companion or their consumption. Now, the ESG conversation, I know TJ remembers. Remember the skull that Greenpeace and Ripple put together?
It was at the Bitcoin conference this year. Yeah.
Yeah. And I took a picture in front of it, kind of like, the guy on the grave or whatever.
Yeah.
It's hard to let go of that memory that Ripple literally took aim and tried to destroy the ground of which crypto walks upon. That is wrong. And it was a complete misstep by XRP and Ripple, in my opinion. And it's hard to ever come back and be, excited about XRP or a Ripple or anything there within if they literally tried to destroy the ground of which crypto is being built upon. Very, very aggravating. So
yeah, and they did reverse course on it, but like you said, yeah, it's hard to like never forget, right? Never forget they put a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars into trying to destroy Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you are in New York, reach out to your local representatives, reach out about Assembly Bill A9138 and let them know that this is not okay. More and more taxes on proof of work is not something that we need. We need to build a decentralized future for our finances if we want any hope for people to actually escape the rat race of constant inflation and governments printing you into misery. Now, the U.S. federal deficit hit 1.8 trillion in the fiscal year of 2025. According to CBO estimates, it's 6% of GDP, the highest readings outside of World War II. No big deal. 2008 financial crisis and the 2020 penny marks the fourth largest budget gap on record, behind the $3.1 trillion and $2.8 trillion deficits during the flu season response. And, this is including 2020 and 2021, pretty ongoing situation that was. Interest payments alone rose by $80 billion, surpassing $1 trillion for the first full year for the first time in history. So the debt crisis reaching another level. Gold versus falling crude prices is another very, very interesting signal. Global recessionary path is being looked at from this. This is Mike McGlone. Rapid rise in ancient store value versus declines of the most significant commodity reflects a global economic stress trajectory. Simply put, and I like George's mention on this. Shout out to you, George. I always see this guy in the shows that I'm hosting, and shout out to you, brother. When gold soars and oil sinks, the market's screaming recession ahead, louder than any Fed speech. But there's some other context. Do you remember when oil futures went negative?
Zero. Yeah, I remember. I do. I was watching it that day. They went below zero. Yeah.
Seeing those basic mechanics of what backs the US dollar, they say it's an oil backed dollar, and then your barrels go to negative $17 a barrel. That showed me just how truly broken the monetary system is behind the veil, the sheet that they put in front of the average person's eyes. And on that day, I put everything into crypto, all my research, all my time, and it's really been helpful.
Well, and it was when gold was also spiking at that same time. I'm glad you mentioned that because what I'm going to pull up next is exactly around that same time period, and it is true. It is screaming recession. It is screaming that stress on the fiat financial system, which we know we're experiencing right now. We're experiencing stress on that system. I know we talked about it some last week. I'm sure you were screaming about the regional banks getting ready to go under. And that was the same thing that was happening as it was coming to a head in 2019. And so just because the system is under stress does not mean they will not flood the system with money. And that's exactly what happened last time. And that's exactly what we're heading into this time. And this chart right here is kind of setting that up. The gold top in 2020. I mean, it was, if you see right there towards the end before that red dot, I mean, it was an astronomical, just straight up line. Bitcoin sideways while that was happening in gold. Bitcoin was, basically trading sideways. As gold started to settle down, that's when Bitcoin went absolutely astronomical straight up, and we got our parabolic bull run. We're moving into a very similar time period. Obviously, gold just has been going up in a straight line. Bitcoin basically trading within a range this year. I mean, obviously, we've been up pretty good on Bitcoin, but haven't seen that blow off top that everybody's looking for. This shows it going into the 200K range. Now, some of these levels and numbers, obviously it's different time frames, all that sort of stuff, but it illustrates the point of gold going up, oil going down. It does show a sign of what you were just talking about, that the system itself is not working well. There's flaws in the fiat system, which if you guys are watching this channel, you probably already knew that, right? We already know never-ending debt isn't good. Spending more than you take in isn't good, and the system is not going to last forever. This is a confidence game, and that's basically what we're seeing from the world leaders that run the fiat systems right now, is basically trying to portray strength amongst chaos. And I do think the U.S. has an advantage in that era. And we do have a lot of gold. We also have a lot of Bitcoin. And I do think what they're doing with stable coins, subsidizing the debt, all that sort of stuff, it's going to work. And we're going to port into Bitcoin. I also saw another crazy theory because China's very much financializing gold right now. They're trying to raise a ton of products on gold. And I'm not saying I think this is necessarily going to happen, but what if the US, lets China push everything into gold and pumps gold up and everybody's all in on gold. And then we just rug pull and go straight into Bitcoin and start crashing. The price of gold starts crashing. The price of Bitcoin starts skyrocketing. And that is, basically the crack that breaks the camel's back over there in China, because they're a house of cards. It's just, like everything's debt based. China's got just as much debt. China's printing more than we are. Their M2, their money supply is going up more up in a straight line than anyone else in the world right now. So they started printing first. We covered it here. Like, hey, yeah, they're gonna look like they've got decent strength right now because they're printing a ton of money. And he who prints last wins. The US will be the one who prints last. We haven't started doing it yet, but many, many signs, in my opinion, to a ton of liquidity coming back into this system. So not saying I think the dollar's great. Still think the dollar's going to have a ton of problems. It's going to fail. I'm not saying the economy is necessarily as great as they want you to believe that it is, but they're going to make it look that way, at least for, in my opinion, another year, which is part of why. Yeah, go ahead.
We got to show some charts to what you're saying, because this is kind of crazy to think about. So what TJ's talking about ended up, if we do indeed do a budget neutral transfer of some of the gold reserves into Bitcoin. And, right now, the best post that I saw this weekend was Alex Becker. Good job buying a literal yellow effing rock at Pico Omega top right before the biggest crypto bull market ever. You dumb effing R word. So I'm going to keep it PC for us. This is what happened to gold last time we cut rates into inflation and ended up with a stagflationary environment. Gold went on a ballistic move with 3 months of up only max pain action. It had a massive wick at the last portion of that 3 month time frame, and then what followed was a 20-year bear / accumulation mark. Right. Right now we have all of the structural makings of it, basically the same thing happening right now. I do think gold, from the pace that it's rising and just the historical movements that gold has done, when we're in this same environment, it can run to $5,000. The question is, how far down will it fall? And I could actually see this thing coming back down to $2,500 after this run. I do think that, for me, looking at people lining up to buy an ounce of gold for $4,500 or whatever it is right now, when boomers were paying like a bucket of apples for gold, it's just, there's going to be pain here. There's going to be pain. And, with that, I don't go chasing waterfalls. I don't go chasing green candles. And it's how I protect myself from not being overexposed to high entry points on whatever asset class it is that I'm getting into by FOMOing in at the top, essentially. So, there is still room to run for gold, but, massive gold deposit. Again, another massive gold deposit was found. And also we're not even talking about the scientific capability to, over the next 10 years, to produce gold in a lab. We can produce diamonds.
Yeah, well, not even in a lab, but I was talking about efficiencies that are coming to the market, robotics and mining. Like, why do you think everybody's trying to get to space? There's a never-ending amount of rare earth minerals on these asteroids. They're definitely going to, why are they making all these robots? It's to mine rare earth minerals. It's not to be your butler in your house. It's to make money, which will be, that's the marketing, that's the way they sell it, that's the way they get the regulation through. But 100% you're going to be seeing those guys mining gold, and there's a ton of gold on this planet right now. It's just how efficient can you get it out of the ground? So as the market gets more efficient, you could argue the gold supply will go up faster than the Bitcoin supply. Now, like you said, I still think there's more room to the upside for gold. I'm not going to fault anybody for buying gold. It's, gold, Bitcoin, real estate, you're probably going to do okay with those hard assets. Obviously, we love Bitcoin. That's why we talk about Bitcoin all the time. I could definitely make strong arguments that Bitcoin has more capabilities than gold does when it comes to portability and custody and that sort of stuff. So that's why I love it. That's why, and I think that's making sense now to nation states and other people around the world, and especially as we move more towards space. It's much easier to get Bitcoin from New York to outer space than it is to get gold from New York to outer space. Like,
Yeah.
just from a pure practical logistical standpoint, there's a lot of efficiencies that come with a digital product versus a physical product. So
there's so much to think about here, because think about Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He is essentially a currency general. That's a kind of alt season, but you got me on a thought path here. The U.S. lets BRICS nations FOMO into gold.
Well, real quick, before you go too far down that line, tell
Yeah.
people why he's a currency. Like, people don't know probably
yeah.
the history of Scott Bessent.
Yeah,
What do you mean when
absolutely.
you say currency general?
He worked as a secondhand man to George Soros. I can't say the last name because getting the channel. In the 80s, and noticed a weakness within the United Kingdom's real estate market. All he had to do was put his finger on the lever of the real estate market within the United Kingdom and nearly brought the fiat currency to its knees. Now we're in a much more, I'd say, oppositional situation with China and this desire to create basically a parallel fiat dollar to the United States world reserve currency, which is quite a big naughty move if you are, from the United States perspective, trying to retain power. Now, the game theory in here, if I was Scott Bessent, I'd let all these BRICS nations FOMO into the top of gold, and they built these reserves up, and then basically just flip the switch, move some of the gold reserves into Bitcoin, and essentially do what's called a Bretton Woods 2.0 movement, where you move the backing of a world reserve currency to another asset. Oil obviously is showing signs of weakness in being the actual backing asset because of all the conflicts going on right now. It is something that is kind of a heady conversation, but I could see this playing out in that regard.
Yeah. So just to summarize it quickly, Soros and Bessent basically made all of his money by shorting the British pound, and Bessent was his right-hand guy that was kind of administering that process. And like you said, they saw the weakness. They, if we can crash the real estate market, that will crash the pound and we'll make a ton of money. And that's basically what they did. And now he's the one heading up this currency war that we've got going on all around the world. And arguably, again, we've got an unfair advantage being the reserve currency. And so it's really, that's what they're talking about when they say China doesn't have the cards. They really mean, like, there's really no way they can win this because their currency is backed by our currency, whether they like it or not. And that's why they're trying to move towards gold. That's why they're trying to find an alternative, but it's going to cause inefficiencies. So, that was a big rabbit trail we didn't necessarily intend to go down.
I just, you were bringing up all the pieces that brought, and I wanted to address this. How does Bitcoin, how much Bitcoin do they use to make your cell phone, TV, car stereo, or any other electronic? Such a dumb argument. Real utility will never be beaten. Yes, you can use gold for electronics, but guess what? The current and most sought after resource on the planet is not gold, it's not cell phones, it's data, right? It's finding out where your customers are and where you can offload your product and the reason for producing such product. And what we see on a warfare side is trade war and technological cyber warfare happening. So hardening your grid and protecting that data from advancing nation states that wish to dethrone you, probably one of the top of the things that the Department of Defense is thinking about. This goes back to Jason Lowry. I think Jason Lowry, what was the name of his book? Do you remember that?
No,
name of his book? Jason Lowry came from, Pentagon type Department of Defense realm. And he was talking about hardening the grid with blockchain technology. And I think that is something I have to take pretty seriously. When I look at the broader scheme of what's going on with this coalition of BRICS versus the United States interest, data is the new gold. It's the new oil. And protecting that data is going to be at the top of the mind for many people. Now we got to talk about altcoins.
Yeah,
okay,
real quick. Last thing I'll say on this, I think it was Soft War. I just looked up was the name.
Soft War. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would argue, like, I know you said data, but you could also make the point it's actually the most valuable resource right now, or the most sought after thing is energy. And Bitcoin being a store of energy is extremely useful. And like you said, it hardens the grid, all that sort of stuff. Yes, if all the power in the world goes out and everything goes down, that's what everybody likes to talk about. Oh, what if there's no power grid? It was like, okay, well, the world's in whole chaos, and the most valuable thing you can have is bullets, basically lead, and survival skills. So, I guess work on those two. but don't think having a pile of gold is going to save you if you can't defend it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to take your time to shave off your gold shavings when your hungry neighbor comes over to your house.
When your hungry neighbor, if he sees you doing that, he's going to come back with a band of a lot of other people and take everything you have.
Right.
So
It's just the way it is. You need
yeah,
hillbilly
let's
friends.
talk altcoins.
Let's talk altcoins. Now, this is looking pretty good. Altcoins flashing a cycle level bottom. Third MACD cross in 8 years. We do not get this very often, folks. Each one of these mark the start of an altcoin super cycle. This is how generational trades begin, before the noise, before the hype, while the emotions are bad. People are down, they've given up, and we're getting a bullish cross on that. We also have a lot of ETF approvals on the horizon. Grayscale's XRP ETF, 21 shares. I mean, a lot of XRP ETFs are here, and I don't know. I kind of worry about XRP. Seeing these ETF rollouts, I don't know how much true interest can come for XRP.
I think people will be shocked. I'm not the biggest XRP holder, but I think it will absolutely get a bid because of the marketing, because of how well known it is, because of the price point. You know, when they roll out, they're going to be looking at a Bitcoin ETF. And this blows my mind. I literally have to explain this over and over and over, that you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. People look at a Bitcoin for whatever reason. I guess it's just unit bias. I mean, it's a real thing. People look at it and they say, oh, I don't have $100,000. I can't buy Bitcoin. You know how many times people say that to me? It blows my mind. They're going to look at Ethereum and they say $4,000. You know, I don't want to put, you know, I want to get more than one. I don't want, and then they're going to look at XRP,
hundreds of thousands of them,
$2.50 or $3 or whatever it's at. And so they're marketing, they're lobbying. It will definitely get a bid when these things come out. Now, those timelines and dates are all going to be later, and I do believe this is part of what will fuel alt season. It will most likely be early November because the government shutdown does delay these things. So all of these timelines, October 18th, 19th, 20th, 23rd, like that would be happening end of last week and this week. It's not happening right now because the SEC is basically in a maintenance mode. They're not doing any new work. They're basically only responding to emergency things right now while the government's shut down. So I do think this goes, you know, probably another week or two. I know the Senate's supposed to be getting back together today. It could end any time. And when it does, I do believe this has been providing this entry that we've got in crypto right now, that this government shutdown is kind of like a gift from God to get into your best entries before the market structure bill passes and all these ETFs start coming out and all these other regulations that allow banks and big money to get in. They will, XRP will absolutely catch a pump. Now, it's not going to be it's not going to hundreds of dollars, but you know, again, we've been calling for about a $6-ish XRP this whole time. That's absolutely possible and likely. And this is the last thing I'll say about gold. The number one thing that gets me bullish is how many trillions of dollars have gone into gold so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
For people that don't understand market size, the entire crypto market is sitting around 3 trillion. I think, let's see, almost
I think
4
we're like 4 even, like we're just under 4.
Yeah, just under 4. Bitcoin is 2 and change of that. So like Bitcoin at $2 trillion. If $10 trillion were to come into crypto, and we've already seen close to double that go into gold this year, it will be the super cycle, the thing we all tell our children about, the lore that goes on for years and years. You know, the thing that sends Bitcoin, again, $2 trillion puts us at a $2 trillion more, puts us, again, well over $200,000 Bitcoin. And it's going to push altcoins at the same time. So if you guys are nervous, I completely understand why. It makes a lot of sense why, this market has been frustrating, and that's generally at peak frustration. So many people were ready to walk away last week and did walk away. That's generally when the market's at a bottom. So for me, I've learned to recognize those things and say, okay, this is my buying point. But yeah, what else you got on altcoins?
Well, I just feel bad for this guy. He was an XRP holder. He had $3 million worth of XRP. Off of his he had to have clicked a link. Zach
he did. He breaks it down because I looked into this happened over the weekend and went pretty viral. It sounds like it wasn't a compromise in the Ellie Powell wallet. So if you guys use that wallet, it's not a wallet compromise like he's alluding to in this video. It has to do with he had moved some things to a hot wallet and I believe had taken his seed phrase onto his desktop computer, which again, never, ever, 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 ever store your seed phrase anywhere electronic. If write it down on a piece of paper. Do not save it in notes. Do not save it in Word. Do not email it to yourself. Those are 3 very common things I hear about people doing. If you've done that, make a new wallet, move your funds, and do not store your seed phrase anywhere electronic because it's way too easy for fraudsters to get to it. It sounds like something like that happened and then he was phished in some way. So, yeah, like you said, very sad story. You hate to hear that because that is obviously a substantial amount of money that could double here fairly soon. So, or at least go up dramatically. So
I'm well known to put shots across the bow at XRP, but I care about people that hold XRP. It's like, and XRP was like the 3rd crypto that I ever bought. I got it for like 17 cents. And over the course of the last, like say 5-6 years, just some things have changed in my opinion on who the real winner of bank-to-bank interoperability and payments really is going to land into. I think Link won that battle, but I do think that there's upside over the course of this market into 2026. I am targeting essentially Q1, potentially even out to Q2 for this market to be able to run. And honestly, by then I'm going to be fine because of how long I've been in the markets regardless. But just please be careful out there. I think crypto, energy, AI, these are the most disruptive technologies over the next 10 years, in my opinion. The reintroduction of nuclear AI systems, putting the average person out of a job, and blockchain systems hardening data grids and really changing the way that we see economy and information move. It's all going to be happening in a very fast pace. So as we move through this time frame, please just be careful out there.
Absolutely. Now I'm curious. You said that was the 3rd crypto you ever bought. What was the first crypto you ever bought?
First crypto is Bitcoin. It was
nice.
Bitcoin, yeah. And I was like laying on the bathroom floor. The world was going to hell. There was riots going on. Flu season just broke out. China was like spraying Clorox in the air out of the back of trucks. And everything was just going crazy.
I want to know, chat, tell us what your first crypto you ever bought. Mine was Ethereum. So yours was Bitcoin. Yeah. Mine was Ethereum. Okay, so somebody in here says ETH, SHIB. Oh, nice. That's why I don't hate on meme coins a lot. They bring a lot of people in. SHIB, a lot of people brought in XRP. Lincoln Arrow first purchases. Interesting. You must be you haven't been around as long, which is great. Lucky you if your Arrow was your first purchase. Absolutely. ICP, XRM, Dash. There you go. There's a throwback. I'm looking for where's the Litecoin, Doge, XRP.
I want to see Safe Moon in here somewhere. There's got to be a Safe Moon or like
a lot of Litecoin. I like it. See, that shows some of the unit buys to Mina. Okay, I remember talking about Mina. That's a ZK roll up project. $44 Bitcoin. Hell yeah. That's pretty cool. Psychedelic astronaut. A psychedelic astronaut bought $44 Bitcoin. We know why. We know why you bought that. We know what website you were on. Anytime you hear about somebody that bought Bitcoin in like 2013, 2014, we're like, yeah, I know what you were doing.
When I saw he's a bass player, I got a new band, TJ. So,
watch out.
On the Blockchain Basement, I'm going to have my own intro music with this new band that I'm a singer for. It's going to be huge. God, Dogecoin, Ondo, and Sui. I remember when I got it, Bitcoin was like $4,000. ETH was $180. And that was the next one that I bought. It was Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, and then Chainlink. XRP was like 17 cents and Chainlink was $1.90, right? But being in the market for a long time, that's how you really win. Like, we are going into the unknown, but just staying focused and not getting shaken out by short-term movements, I think really, really happen. It's a very, very interesting time. This is an interesting, I want to kind of end the show with this, talking about this from Orbion. I survived 3 crypto cycles and I'm still bad at selling. 2017, watched my alts go 50x and then down by 50%. Thought I was early. Turns out I was greedy. Held the top, missed the exit, and blamed the markets. Then 2021 came around, tried to do better, took some profits too late, still believed that there would be another pump. Instead, I got Terra Luna Three Arrows Capital, and months of pain. That was absolutely great. Remember Johnny's face that morning?
I'll never
Holy
forget
God.
that period. Yeah.
That was crazy. 2025 said no more mistakes, planned every sell level down to the dollar, had dates, targets, time frame, narratives, everything figured out, but the market doesn't care. There was no hype, no euphoric blow off top. There was no, this is the top moment, just rotating layer ones, dying meme coins, and failed perp chains. Every pump was sold into, every breakdown, every breakout got front ran, and retail never entered. Now we're here. Bitcoin was 107K, comes at you quick. Total 3 barely above 2021 levels, and most alts still down by 60 to 80% from their all-time highs. Feels like alt season ended before it started, so I'm stuck between two theories. Either we're at the real alt season and it starts in Q4, or that was it, a silent top designed to trap everyone. Both situations are scary because one punishes early sellers and the other one punishes believers. This is quite a write-up that I've
No, it's great. I loved it because it did really capture how everybody's feeling right now. And I agree. You know, obviously I lived through a lot of that same stuff. And my response to that is there's no such thing as a silent top. Silent top does not exist, and that's part of how I know we still have a bull run ahead of us. We still Q4, it will remain bullish. I do believe it has been slowed down. Everything about this cycle, and again, you could argue 2021 got its legs cut out from it from institutions as well, because that had a kind of a funky ending. And everything we've seen since then has, in my opinion, been textbook accumulations by wealthy families all around the world, wealthy institutions all around the world. And that's part of what we're still seeing now. They're using delays in regulation to accumulate in mass at pace before we see the giant transfer of wealth. I believe we'll see some of that towards the end of this year. I do believe it will extend into 2026. And, you know, it's the
so you're saying option one. You're saying
I'm saying option one. Yeah, there's no way. There's no such thing as a top, you know, an end of a cycle without a euphoria phase. It is part of the market cycle, and we definitely have not had euphoria. Absolutely, we've had some runners. We've had some select moments of this is running. You know, some coins that have popped off, but we have not had the euphoric. You know, the top 10 coins are still, you know, Ethereum struggling to make a new all-time high. Solana, you know, yes, it's done well since its absolute bottom, but hasn't crossed back over the 250 range. Like, we will see that happen. We will see a blow off top. It's just a matter of when, not if. So, yeah.
I vote one too. I'm with you on that. I vote one. I think the actual alt season starts Q4, Federal Reserve interest rate cuts, realization that quantitative easing in true is coming into 2026. But what do you say in the chat? Well, as we, you know, are entering the unknown, we open the week pretty well. One, if you think the alt season is actually going to start Q4 and throw people off running into 2026, or two, if you think we just went through a silent top and now it's just a ride downhill. I need to know where the chat's heads are. Right now, it's a great uncertainty. The only thing I know for certain is a few things. The dollar is going to continue losing value. And you know what? The cost to mine Bitcoin, the decentralization of Bitcoin, I think is going to hold up. Even through quantum computing, I feel very, very strongly that Bitcoin is going to be the foundation of the next version of communication and value that we see and my kids see. They won't even know that they're using it by the time that they're my age.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we've got a bullish market ahead, but let us know. One in the chat if you think we still got more room to run. Two if it's over. We'll see you guys later today and at the top.